People that vibrate the highest energetically are comfortably in their villain era. You become the villain the moment you decide you're done. I'll take that. I have no problem being the villain.
When you start coming out of survival, you actually will feel more rage.
I'm okay that in your story, I'm the villain, because you the clown in mine.
But you want to know something about villains? They're not always a villain.
So as it turns out, being the bad guy is more fun. Y'all know that meme where he's just like... I don't know if you've seen some of the mini reels and YouTube videos about how the final stage of healing is apparently, allegedly, becoming a bitch. And you know, I want to talk more about this embracing of dark sides, what I think this actually means, and why it's noticeably women who are talking more about having a villain era. I think it's all very fascinating. Objectively, at the essence level, this can be a very good thing with the right amount of self-awareness and focus. This evolution, if not handled with care, can actually be quite negative, as you'd probably expect, or catalyze the erosion of self-awareness and integrity, like if you become an actual villain. Here's what I define a villain era as, okay? Generally speaking, I think it's valuing and therefore prioritizing the self and one's own desires, not being afraid of being misunderstood, becoming comfortable with self-validation. Overall, I think that's a very good thing, right? The villain is being willing to be the bad guy in someone else's story, upholding boundaries, saying no and meaning it, and following through on that no. Choosing one's own comfort over someone else's, making yours number one and other people's secondary. Generally speaking, okay, I'm not talking about specific circumstances. Generally, I think this is what I see as good villain behavior. Prioritization of the self, which foundationally is important. We have this kind of societal stigma around selfishness that I think serves certain systems that aren't actually the systems we might need to be serving. Moral of the story, people just want freedom from chronic guilt and shame. And that's valid. The bad side though, I do want to make a distinction because some people will run with this idea of a villain era and turn into the villainization of others and victimization of self disguised as a villain era. I think the villain arc is meant to be about self-empowerment, but it can be quietly weaponized into a victim era. And that's why I think an issue of verbiage is part of this, because how we characterize and word and name things, the nomenclature we give things, can taint the actual essence of a movement and misconstrue what's actually happening, clouding public perception of it, swaying it to look a certain way, and possibly, coloring the movement itself into something more trivial or dramatic than it really needed to be.
Oh, no, hang on. I've just realised.
What?
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Welcoming your villain era is not about being an actual villain, okay? Somebody need to hear this. It's not about fucking shit up with no remorse, okay? It's about choosing yourself and not being afraid to be the villain in someone else's story because you know who you are. Honestly, in my opinion, might be unpopular opinion, but I think a villain era can only really be positive if it's coming from someone who was previously self-sacrificing or hypervigilant or people-pleasing or overly apologetic. I think it's mostly positive when it's correcting something that was slanted, if the villain era is providing balance to what previously was. Does that make sense? Everything is about balance. Everything is going to be relative to the circumstance it's on. So generally, we can't say across the board, oh, this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's going to vary because everyone is in a different place, right? Like for me, I'm thinking about these things because I'm embracing these things as well. My villain era is saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And then going about my day. It's standing up for my perspective in a debate or conversation, not wavering because I'm afraid of inconveniencing somebody else. Not feeling the impulse to apologize a few hours later for the inconvenience of my having a dissenting opinion. You know what I mean? Releasing the chronic guilt and shame or the idea that I am responsible for how everyone else feels.
is honestly you just finally putting yourself first. The old you was over-explaining, trying to appease other people at the detriment to yourself.
You know, and I think for a lot of people, I think a villain era is really just the result of a realization crystallizing. It's the realization that we're allowed to be on our own side. That's something I had to learn. We're allowed to be on our own side. We don't have to marinate in feelings of guilt or shame for moving in accordance to our hearts. And I know when it comes to something like ending a relationship or whatever it may be, so much guilt and shame comes with these things because we feel like we're causing harm by doing what our gut tells us to do or following our intuition. And I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but I feel like some of us might have inverted ways of thinking where we feel like conflict in general, like if we're experiencing conflict with another, we see that as indicative to some internal shortcoming. Like we're not supposed to be in conflict with others. So we try to avoid conflict or extinguish it immediately by appeasing, by loosening our boundaries, or just carrying guilt. I don't know. And that's not the case. I think when we become villains, it's more so that we're open to being perceived as a villain, not consciously being villainous. And for some of us with this inverted way of thinking, I think the solution is kind of recognizing that conflict, being at an impasse with someone, and sometimes even ideological standoffs with people, just not seeing eye to eye. Those things are going to happen because you're a human in the world. And everyone is living in their own seat of consciousness. Everyone is different. And you have to learn to listen and trust yourself sometimes and have your own back because everyone is valid. So I think it's not just having a disproportionate respect for yourself and not for others. It's understanding that everyone is valid. Everyone has their own truth. So if you hold that truth, then you have to know that the person you're up against, whatever, is valid. And that means you also know that you are valid. So if you're both valid, why wouldn't you choose your gut? Choose what calms your nervous system. Choose what feels right to you and understand that no guilt or shame needs to be had, even though it might never meld. Those two worlds might never come together, but you chose you. At the end of the day, if you continue to not choose you, it erodes your own relationship with self. And we know that your relationship with self is foundational, so you have to learn to choose yourself. And choosing yourself does not have to mean disrespecting someone else. It just means respecting you. This was something I didn't learn. This might resonate with someone too, but sometimes we have to learn to validate ourselves enough to stand with ourselves and upkeep a boundary. Because if we never learned how to validate ourselves, whenever someone pushes up against our boundary or starts to erode it or untie it, you just kind of fold because you never learned how to maintain how you feel. You learn to be self-sacrificial. Some people, obviously this does not apply to everyone, but for who it applies to, it applies to. So you lay down boundaries out of wanting to keep the peace. So learning to validate ourselves means not automatically succumbing to someone else's reality simply because you don't want to be in conflict anymore. If conflict makes your nervous system really scared because of how it's manifested to you in your life or childhood, you just want to extinguish it when it's there. And so you might not be practiced in upholding how you feel and standing by it. You might be chronically carrying guilt or chronically laying down your reality for someone else's. Got to go. Got to go. Embrace your villain era. Okay? For those people, embrace your villain era. And I'm making the mistake of using the wording that I think is flawed nomenclature, but duality, okay? Duality. I hope you understand what I'm saying in this video. So a villain era is not about suddenly becoming combative or antagonizing. It's about standing firm where you are and loving yourself enough to just be like, you know what? No, my view is just as valid as yours. So I guess we're just gonna sit here. I think it also includes trying to see others' points of view. When you're assuring yourself, I think you can even tolerate listening and observing another point of view because you're also securing your own. I think when you're secure, you actually have more space to listen and engage, but I digress. Taking the stance of like, you know what? I'm going to advocate for my peace and how I feel because you're going to advocate for yours. And if I don't do it, if I don't listen to how my body is telling me to move, no one's going to do it for me. No one's going to advocate for me. I'm the only person here with the responsibility of being my own parent and validating myself. And also, I'm gonna be so for real. Like, just looking at the social media trends and stuff, the villain era does sound so enticing, particularly to women, because it has this air of abandonment to it. It has this feeling like someone like the Joker who just fucks shit up, you know? And it doesn't mark his subconscious, it doesn't plague him. This idea of abandonment. And this is why I think so many women are talking about this right now. It's really about this spiritual shift to be free. I think women generally hold a unique guilt and shame and a need to people please because our behavior from the moment we're born is always more scrutinized and judged, you know, even by the same source. Like, think about boy moms. It's a real thing where you have a girl and a boy and like you just freaking love that boy. Speaking of my mom. But every time I mention a mom, my mom calls me. Do y'all notice that? She calls me anytime I say a mom. Hold on one second. Hey, I'm literally, what is it, a zucchini?
This isn't zucchini.
You grew that?
Yes.
Good job. Why you got sunglasses on?
I have a headache, so I went outside to get some fresh air, and then I saw how big it had gotten.
I answered the phone to this image. Okay, good job.
Okay.
I love you. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. My mom has a vegetable garden. She likes to call me and show me her produce. Okay, back to our program. Like, think about boy moms who just accept their sons as they come and just scrutinize the hell out of their daughters. It's like, we just have more rules and regulations under patriarchy, right? We have more rules and regulations on how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to serve and be motherly, be self-sacrificing, low-key, where boys and men are encouraged to exist with more abandonment. They're encouraged. Being a man is about being free and finding yourself and trying things and doing what you want to do. Like, that's part of the arc of being a free man. And I don't know, because I think about how even as a kid, you know, brother and sister of the same age, boy can run, climb tree, jump, fall off, get dirty, and laugh. But girl needs to slow down. She's moving too fast. She's getting too dirty. It's unladylike. Stop running and playing with those boys like that. Even though we all have the same impulse and drive to run and be free and play, we have different stipulations put on us. We all have the same impulses and desire for freedom. So over time, this society-induced suppression compounds in every aspect of our lives as we get older, in relationships, in dating, in work, whatever. I feel like women are uniquely clammed up, but deeply intuitive beings who are just exhausted and frustrated spiritually. And from the outside looking in, I feel like men don't know why, and they're just like, what's your deal? Why are you so angry? You don't get it. You can't get it. Again, you know, I think it's mischaracterized. I think it's just on the spiritual level a declaration of I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch and focus my attention on what I want versus what the room needs. And a lot of times that's the opposite of how we were programmed. So it feels very radical, even though it's kind of the norm for men. I can see from their perspective, it's like, what are y'all even talking about? Because some of the things that we're trying to claim in this dramatic way, they've always had. Last thing I want to say about this is I'm not 100% backing this statement, but I am 85% backing this statement. And I basically feel like we only really want more audaciousness for the oppressed group. Like, as a theory, it depends on how it's used, right? How this audaciousness is used. Because we don't really want bullies to have more synthetic reason to be more audacious and self-serving in their harmful behavior of bullying, right? But you do perhaps want someone who's been suppressed or self-shrinking to find audaciousness and learn to trust themselves, to branch out, expand, put themselves first, stand up to their bully. So naturally, an ideological blanket, such as the value of embracing your dark side or your villain era, is going to have negative effects somewhere on the board just because the terrain isn't even, right? Some folks are going to take this shit and run with it in the wrong direction. That's just how the world works. Kind of like how some people have gotten their hands on therapy speak, you know? Like they got their hands on like the surface layer of therapy speak and like psychology 101 kind of jargon, and then they invert it and weaponize it to possibly perpetuate their own unhealthy patterns, project disorders onto other people. Like, you see it being used in all these ways because the terrain is not even. Now, some people are benefiting from these things and growing. Some people are using it as a hammer to beat their victims, you know? So I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. I've been seeing all these posts and also in real life, hearing the women around me talking about this idea of, I'm taking on this energy, this essence of abandonment. I'm taking this on, talking to each other about it and being like, yeah, I'm on the same thing. Like, I'm hearing these conversations, and I just wanted to sit with it for a little bit. I wanted to journal about it. So thank you guys for being here and journaling with me. I do want to ask you guys to go to my website and subscribe to my email list in case there is a time where I cannot reach you on this platform. I would love to have other ways to contact you. I will not spam you. Y'all, I have not sent an email blast in like a year and a half. I'm be real with y'all. I'm not out here sending email blasts, but I do want to have the list. So if you've been watching these videos and you've been kind of like a part of this little community I'm building, please subscribe to my email list so I can tell you guys when stuff's happening. This piece is a work in progress. It's called A Good Listener. It's about being able to hear, being able to get silent enough and like have a direct line to your source. I think if my video is not already out, I have a process video of this coming out soon. So thank you guys so much. If you watch this video, like, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Have you been seeing stuff about this villain era? Have you been feeling a drive or pull toward a villain era? I'm not saying it's just women. Lots of people, like, on a global scale, are tired of suppression, period, and are kind of, the collective is also just like, fuck this. You know, they want to advocate for themselves. They want to focus on what they want. Everyone wants to quit their job. Everyone wants abandonment. Everyone wants freedom, you know? So I'm not trying to say this is just a movement for one demographic of people, because it's not. But I am going to speak to what I know because I'm a lady. But leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Subscribe. Tell your mama to subscribe. Like, tell your daddy to, tell your baby mama and your baby daddy, tell your uncle, tell your auntie, tell your niece. Make another Gmail account. I don't know what to tell you. Either you're with us or you're not. Thank y'all. I love you so much. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Toodles.